Hi, my name is Joseph Stux, and today I'll be talking about term limits for the United States Congress. I'll go over what term limits are, why I support them, and why I believe you should too. So term limits for the United States Congress are a set amount of years a representative or senator can hold in office. Currently, the United States Congress does not have any, which means if someone continues to win elections, they'll make a career out of being a politician. They can stay as long as they like, just as long as people continue to vote for them and they continue to win elections. So, which is what a lot of politicians try to do today. A report from the Congressional Report Service states that the average length of service of representative at the beginning of the 115th Congress, which is in 2018, was 9.4 years for the House, and for senators, it was 10.1 years. For the House, that's 4.7 terms, because the House gets 2 years per term, and the senators, that's 1.7 terms for senators, which is a lot more than you might think. Now, that's only the average. The most extreme, though, is for the Senate, 51 years, 5 months, and 26 days. That record is held by the late Robert Byrd, and the longest in the House was 59.06 years, a record held by the U.S. Republican John Dingell Jr. These men spent their whole lives in the United States Congress knowing only how to be a politician. I don't believe that is healthy or efficient for our Congress, that the only thing they know how to do is to win elections and be a politician. The intention of being a congressional representative was never for it to be made a career. The Founding Fathers intended for people to serve in the Congress. Men and women would serve in Congress because they were successful in the field of work and realized it was time to sacrifice a couple years of their life to better their country and to better the people. This is not the mindset of representatives today. Many are in it purely for the money and the power, honestly. The longer representatives serve, the more connections they make, the more people they meet, and the more special interest groups coming after them. And all they want is their vote. And many politicians get influenced by other politicians higher up that have served longer and desire to get their vote by any means of bribing, influencing them with their higher ups, everything. And that is why many Americans support term limits. Now, according to the Constitutional Daily, in 2013, Gallup poll stated that 75% of Americans expressed support for the congressional term limits. Yet we do not have term limits with 75% of Americans wanting term limits, because the ones making the laws would literally be suppressing their power and would literally be forcing them to come out of office because of term limits. And the only other way would be for referendum, which is where the American people literally vote on it through a constitutional amendment. And that would be during like an election, or a referendum could be taken at any time. So term limits are so supported that the Senate Report 104-105 states that since 1951, 35 states have implemented term limits on their governors and state legislators. 23 states have also enacted term limits on their federal congressional delegations. Now, however, on May 22nd, 1995, the Supreme Court declared all state term limits laws unconstitutional as it applies to the members of the United States Congress. So, let me break this down. 23 states enacted term limits on their federal congressional delegates, meaning the House and representative senators that they would send to Washington. But the Supreme Court found that illegal because the states were suppressing the power of the federal government by doing that. Which means if term limits are to be enacted in the United States, it must be made by either Congress itself or voted in directly by the people. These career politicians are controlling the Congress and holding it back from evolving. These politicians are using what is called a seniority system, and according to the Heritage Foundation, term limits will do away with the seniority system. The seniority system allows entrenched congressmen that have been there for many, many years, just like Robert Byrd or John Dingell Jr., to control the younger ones that are coming in. So they would encourage newcomers to behave like the long-term predecessors that they took their place from. So by doing this, it would stop the controlling or the bullying in the sense of that, oh, so now you replaced one of our guys, now you're going to act like him. And if you don't, then there's going to be consequences. So by having term limits, representatives will not be controlled by these senior representatives, and special interest groups will not have time to be able to latch onto these representatives and force them with money or to blackmail them or in any way control them. So the main counter argument for this is that it would be term limits would be restricting voters' choice options of candidates. But when 70% of the nation supports term limits, it makes the argument not even valid anymore. We need to stop the corruption in Washington. We need men and women that we can truly trust. And I believe the only way is that we enforce our representatives to have a successful business life, whether that be in any field, honestly. It doesn't even have to be business. It could be in engineering, in art, in anything. But we need successful people that know the way the U.S. works. We need people that realize that they will only be in office for a short amount of time. So their goal really is to serve. We need servicemen and women. And I think term limits will be extremely helpful in a way that we can finally trust politicians that they're no longer in for the money or the power, but they're in it to make our country better. So that is why I support term limits and why I believe you should too. Thank you.